not every day we fish is going to be picture perfect. We got some pretty nasty weather right now. But if you prepare for it, you can get out and go fishing and be safe and comfortable. But if you're unprepared for it, you talk about miserable. Don't know if we'll catch any fish on a day like this. We are going to share some information on how you can gear up to enjoy a day out like this and maybe not even know it's that bad. So stay tuned. We'll see if we can't get out on the water and help you get prepared.
On today's episode of the Cabela's Fisherman's Handbook, host Wade Middleton has made his way over into East Texas and is preparing to head out onto Sam Rayburn Reservoir in search of pre-spawn bass. As he pulls up to the ramp today, Wade's been greeted with rain, cold winds, and harsh conditions. This may not look like the best day to get out on the water, but as the first half of today's episode moves along, Wade will show how being prepared, having the proper equipment, and a little hard work can pay dividends in these types of conditions.
For me, on a recent trip, pulled up to the boat ramp and, you know, the rain was rolling in. You look on the radar and it was red. Red usually means heavy rain and lightning in my book, and there was no need to go running straight out on the water. But at the same time, I knew I was prepared to be able to handle the conditions should I have wanted to. You know, once I deemed it safe, I could dress up properly to get out on the water and be successful. And that's something a lot of people have to keep in mind to be comfortable. You know, going out, obviously you can go fishing in any old set of clothes that you want, but will you enjoy it? Will you be comfortable? Probably not. So if you prepare the right ways and layer up in the right clothing, have the right kind of clothing to be able to handle the conditions, you can pretty much get out and fish in any conditions and enjoy it. This is those days you catch those giants. When I look at the day right now that we're unloading on, we've just had a storm pass through. Low pressure, the wind's blowing, it's been raining. You know, probably gonna get a little more rain before the day's over. We're heading down the ramp and starting to fish along the area. The first thing that's pop up into my mind, there's a lot of grass. And when I can find a lot of grass, I know I'm gonna be able to figure out how to catch some bass. There he is right there. Another little guy. Little guys will warm you up after a cold day. Come here, buddy. Woo! Little guy. Come here. All right, man. Put me back in the water, sir. It's warmer in the water than it is up here. Like we're ice fishing. I'll let you go. You know, when you look at water conditions, water temperature, the actual conditions in an area that you're fishing, depth and all those, it plays a variable in where the fish are gonna set up. And it's amazing to me, sometimes I can be at the middle of a cove and it'll be, you know, one set of temperature, and at the mouth or in the back it'll be a totally different set of conditions once you get back there based on the water temperature. This scenario right here, the further back I went, the warmer the water got. And that's where I started getting bites and started to really get a good reaction bite on the Uruku shad. I was actually throwing a smaller version and ripping it through the tops of those grass and then trying to let it feather down on a long creek edge. And those fish, because we had a good low pressure day, they were knocking slack in that bait every time. We're just following that hydrilla edge and catching a lot of little bucks at the back end of this creek on this small Uruku shad, and I mean it is solid hydrilla through here. We can't throw a big one, a big bait through here because it's just going to bury up in the grass too fast. So we're actually throwing a smaller one and paying off with a few bites.
Time now for a break, but when we return, host Wade Middleton continues breaking down the conditions out on Sam Rayburn and catching fish on a go-to lure for this body of water during the spring, the Uruku shad. Stay tuned for more Fisherman's Handbook.
A lifetime. It's spent learning, enduring, and growing. Day after day, season after season. As an outdoorsman, your pursuit is tireless. And at Cabela's, ours is too. We design, refine, and deliver durable, purpose-built products that you can trust your season with. If our name's on it, it's priced right every day and built for seasons to come.
For 50 years, Ranger has led the way in innovative, high-performance designs, and we're raising the bar again with a bold new flagship line, the Ranger Z Comanche L Series. These rigs are custom crafted with a passion for perfection and loaded with more features and advantages to deliver domination at every level. The next generation Ranger L Series. Celebrate a legacy, 50 years in the making.
When it comes to the most reliable outboard power, the choice is clear. And right now, that choice means even more during Yamaha Outboard's Choose Reliability sales event. When you purchase any qualifying Yamaha outboard, you choose between 5 years of Yamaha warranty protection or up to $1,500 in Yamaha dealer credit. Whichever you choose, one thing is for sure. You choose reliability. Yamaha's Choose Reliability sales event, going on at your Yamaha outboard dealer now.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. Garmin. Fight your fish, not your fish finder. And by Yamaha Marine. Reliability starts here.
Look at that. You don't think he didn't eat that ricochet? He choked on it.
Welcome back to this episode of the Fisherman's Handbook. As anglers, we all know we can't control the conditions we're faced with out on the water, but we have to take what's given and make the most of it. Today, out on Sam Rayburn Reservoir, Wade Middleton has the opportunity to fish in low-pressure conditions, and he's capitalizing on this opportunity.
All right, fish, we're gonna let you go back. There's a huge difference, in my opinion, in a low-pressure day and a high-pressure day when it comes to the weather. You know, those high-pressure days, I talk about it a lot, where you've got a bluebird sky, you know, the sun's real bright, a lot of times there's very little wind. Those tend to be a little bit tougher fishing days when it comes to just getting a lot of bites or getting an aggressive bite, in my opinion. On the flip side of that, you get a low-pressure day, you get a kind of an old cloudy day, and it's kind of rainy and the wind's blowing a little bit, and it's just nasty. It looks like, man, I just want to roll over and go back to sleep. That's sometimes the best days of all to be able to go fishing, because the fish are going to be a little bit more active. They tend to be snapping, they're going to bite more readily in a lot of situations. So for fishermen, don't stay home just because it's a, you know, a bad weather day. A lot of times if you can safely get out and go fishing, that's the time to go. You know, what you can see looking at the units right there is there's a lot of hydrilla down there, and it's just kind of almost all matted, and every now and then you'll see us getting to 3.5 and 4 foot deep, and you can actually see that lighter color on the mapping portion that I've got, that I'm trying to kind of keep the boat along the edge of that, because that's the drain. That's where we come through here. The Garmin surveys come through and, you know, identified that as the deeper water, and that's where the fish should be. And that hydrilla is just almost to the top back here right now, even though the water's that cold. So, you know, we're just looking for the highway, trying to intersect them, and they're probably going to be, for the most part, you know, 1 to 3 pound fish that we're gonna find all the way back here right now. But after the weather from earlier in the day, we'll take those. As you dissect all the pieces of the puzzle that day, it's amazing what little subtleties may trigger you to do one thing or another. You know, I'd had a couple of bites, and as I was working way to the back of this pocket, I had just about given up on going any further. And when I looked down, I noticed on my water temperature that it was about 2 degrees warmer now than it was several hundred yards behind me. That prompted me to go just a little bit deeper into the cove. And as I went deeper into the cove, I started really trying to watch my mapping to find those little edges, a little bit of that drop off, and move my Panoptics around to target some of those clumps. And as I did, I began to get some awesome reaction bites. Water's 2 degrees warmer back here, and they are knocking the fire out of it when they bite. I mean, they're just nailing it. Boy, these fish are healthy. Anybody that's ever fished a lipless crankbait, and I'm partial to the Spro or Roku shad, but anybody that's ever fished one of these will tell you, when you get on this kind of bite and you pause it and they hit it like a freight train and they start going the other way, will attest that it is one of the funnest bites that you'll ever have. And now you're gonna get your feelings hurt. You're gonna lose a couple, because a lot of times they'll slap at it and get hooked on the outside of the mouth and they'll get away. But when they bite it, it's a blast. You know, it's amazing how close you can be to success and failure in fishing. It could be, you know, a little bait change, a little rhythm change, a difference in your cadence, maybe moving 100 yards and doing something different, and all of a sudden you start catching fish. And so when it comes down to dissecting those things, those little bitty nuances, there's some days that people just really dial it in, and other days they don't get it figured out and catch as many. So as a fisherman, I guess the moral to that story is keep a line in the water and figure out how to catch them, because sooner or later, once you dial them in, you can repeat that time and time again.
Well, they're all clones, fat as footballs, and mad as can be. I mean, every one of them just pow. That'll warm you up fast.
Coming up, conditions can change from minute to minute, hour to hour, and even day to day. After the break, Wade returns out to the same body of water the following day, but this time, the weather pattern has shifted significantly. Find out if Wade can manage to figure him out.
Let's get down to business. Quiet, you sons of fishes. Now, what?
I'm switching sonar.
Why?
Cause now I can see fish swimming live in front of my boat. I even see fish attack my lure. Y'all sonar's just history. I'm out.
I'm with him.
Here at Big Bite Baits, we've got a big line of different plastics, and you know, they're all a tool, so you want to have them with you all the time.
I made several checks in crowded areas flipping that right there. Just a 6-inch Big Bite creektail worm.
Here at Big Bite, we came out with 4 brand new colors this year. All 4 of these colors are going to be great fish catching baits. Definitely my #1 go-to bait that Big Bite has out right now is the Big Bite Battle Bug.
Big Bite is leading the way when it comes to innovation and colors.
When I talk about Sunline, I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Cabela's. It's in your nature. Ranger Boats, still building legends, one at a time. Engel Coolers, a legend in reliability. And by Bradley Smoker, food smoking made easy. After a full day of fishing in adverse conditions consisting of heavy winds and rain, Wade has decided to return to Sam Rayburn Reservoir in search of more hungry pre-spawn bass. And as the sun has risen on a new day, the conditions have changed drastically.
We've got totally different fishing conditions. You know, yesterday we were able to get out for about an hour. I mean, the cold front was coming through, it was raining, it was low pressure, and the fish were snapping on a Ruku shad in the back of a pocket. Now we're dealing with mostly clear bluebird skies, very, very little wind. So we have to, in our mind as fishermen, think we've got to adjust and adapt just a little bit. Things are going to be different while we're out on the water, so we need to present our bait different. First thing that comes to my mind when I start seeing this type of a condition with the high bluebird sky, water temperatures what they are, is a suspending jerkbait. You know, a suspending jerkbait is phenomenal to be able to throw out, twitch it down, and leave it in the strike zone. And by leaving it in the strike zone, it's a very subtle thing that allows you to be able to get bites from fish that are otherwise lethargic. Basically, you're teasing them, you're leaving it in the strike zone. A little suspending jerkbait. I mean, a chunky bass right there. This is perfect conditions for a suspending jerkbait, really. Water temperatures are not quite to 50. He got all the hooks in there. That's what you like to see. You know, when you're fishing this bait, that's not my preferred style. I'll be the first to admit. And Mike McClellan can sit there and throw this thing and let it sit and watch the paint dry on his house, whereas I'm more of a fast fisherman. But when you can catch fatties like that, look at the belly on that fish. Makes it fun. Great start. You know, there's a lot of things to keep in mind when it comes to jerkbait fishing. First and foremost, a good rod selection. You know, you don't want to use a rod that's going to be way too heavy and way too stiff in jerkbait fishing. That weight and that stiffness is just going to wear you out. You're going to feel it in your elbows and your forearms. You want something light, you know, designed for jerkbaits and topwaters. It will really allow you to get good action without exerting too much energy in it. Secondly, the speed of the reel. I like a slower reel versus a faster reel. You know, you get into those 7-to-1, 8-to-1 type reels. I mean, basically you're moving so much line so fast with those when you're using a jerkbait, you're taking it out of the strike zone. And I want a 6-to-1 type reel to leave it in that strike zone a little bit longer, so I'm not moving it quite as fast. And finally, most people will use fluorocarbon line when it comes to jerkbait fishing in an 8 to 12 pound test range. And normally that's what I do, but I'll tell you on this trip, I actually changed to monofilament. The reason I changed to monofilament is the grass was so high in the areas that I was fishing that I didn't want my bait to get quite as deep as fluorocarbon would get it. I wanted to basically give up a foot of depth to be able to get it a little bit higher so I could stay in that area of about 4 feet down, which is what I felt like was the perfect strike zone for the way I was fishing. Old clown colored mixed stick.
And next on the Fisherman's Handbook, Wade continues to get dialed in on the fish, targeting them with a suspending jerkbait. Don't miss some of the best fishing action of the day. We'll be right back.
At Sawyer, we use the best technology to make simple products that keep you going regardless of your journey. So whether you're boating, hiking, fishing, camping, or hunting, we keep you outdoors with a full lineup of products to both protect you and make the outdoors more enjoyable. Sawyer, we keep you outdoors.
Engel's got the original high-performance cooler and a whole lot more. Engel coolers, go with the original.
The Fisherman's Handbook is brought to you in part by Sawyer Products, we keep you outdoors. Engel Coolers, a legend in reliability. And by Big Bite Baits, designed to bring the big bite to your line.
As you look out across here, I mean, it just looks like a big bay. And it's, you know, there's a bay with several pockets and little channels through here, but it's full of hydrilla right now. So trying to find areas that you can get a bite in, basically where the fish is gonna set up for an ambush point, or where they're basically just sitting there staging in that grass because it's kind of cold this morning, is tough. So what I'm doing is I'm using electronics. Here's a great example. You can see the ditch right there. There's the top of the grass, how it drops off right there and then flattens off. So I'm looking at my traditional sonar, my mapping, and how my colors are set up so that I can find the little deeper drain, the little deeper stretch to stay in to throw this jerkbait across it. And then as I get in there, using Panoptics to try to identify gaps in the holes in front of me, out 40, 50, 100 feet, so that I can, you know, target those with cast, go down, twitch, twitch, and then pause that jerkbait in there. That's a big one. That's gonna be a big one right there. He took line, he took off. Oh, he's in the grass. Oh yeah, there's a good one.
And he's got a face full of hooks. Come here. Boy, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about. There's a fat one. I mean, he crushed that little jerkbait out there right in the middle of the drain. Get the pliers again. On a straight pause. Boom. I mean, it's warming up. Water temperatures came up about 1 degree now. That may be making a difference on why these fish are hitting it a little harder this morning. You know, they were barely just ticking every bait we threw. A lot better there. Boy, that is as fun as it gets right there. I mean, that was like hooking a freight train right there. You know, I've had 2 or 3 of them now that just nailed it. You know, we talked about earlier in the day, everything was just there. Now, they're actively hitting it. I can feel them taking it away from me. And as soon as that one, you know, I paused it, the bait's just sitting neutral out there. It's just sitting there like this. And then all of a sudden, boop, it's gone. I mean, I knew right away we had one with a little bit better shoulders that time. We're just fishing down the middle of the drain. You know, I'm using my mapping to basically tell me, you know, here's where I need to be. Because I haven't fished this cove here and, you know, since last year we came over here sight fishing. And, but I've got my mapping set up with the reds and the greens and the yellows so that I can actually say, here's where the ditches are and the drains should be to give me a better feel. And then I'll scan around with the Panoptics. And it just helps you put your boat in a better spot where you're not just always throwing towards the bank. Because right now the bank is covered in hydrilla and these fish are out on the edge of it. I got him that time. Woo! This is fun. I mean, they're just slaps, banging and nipping at it all along. All I can do is start laughing at this point here. It just, when you get them going and you start catching fish consistently, that just never gets old. I had 2 bites on that cast. And I think he both times just kind of come up and licked the tail of it. And then that second time he licked it and we got the hook in him. Regardless of how many we catch or don't catch the rest of this day, we have had a lot of bites. You know, started off really, you know, scattered bite here, scattered bite there, very light bite. Now that, you know, we've got into the afternoon, a few scattered clouds, water temperatures warmed up about 2 degrees, they're really, you know, starting to fire, as you would expect. I mean, there's, you know, we laugh that there's no, we don't want to get out on the water at 8 o'clock because we want to fish till dark a lot of times this time of the year, but I mean, that's just kind of my mentality. I'd rather be out here when it's a little warmer. The fish are going to be a little more active in the afternoons versus the summertime when, you know, I may want to be out here at daybreak, but, you know, today we went and ate breakfast and piddled and got on the water late, and it's paying off with a lot of late afternoon bites. Maybe another big one. He's dogging like a good one. I don't know. He's just hooked, I think he's hooked on the side of the mouth. Yeah, he's hooked on the side of the mouth. Easy. Easy. That's one of those ones that just came up and kind of nipped the tail. Bit it like that. And he just kind of nipped at it. All of them are good.
So many variables going into this fishing trip here that made for the successes and failures. You know, bait changes, weather changes, you know, caught fish regardless of what was going on, but had to adapt a lot. You know, the fish were moving. Some of them were set up really in the deep water hunts. Some of them were up shallow, actively chasing that Aruku shad. Some of them we had to tease with the jerkbait. It was amazing to see how the bite evolved, you know, from that crushing reaction bite the first afternoon to a very light nibble the next morning to a better aggressive bite as that final afternoon we were out there. And the sum of all parts is a great fishing trip. Sam Rayburn, without a doubt, one of the best bass fishing lakes in the nation. And there's a reason why. It's just a healthy fishery and has been for decades. Hopefully it'll stay that way for a long time. And hopefully you enjoyed some of these tips we shared, some of the insight we showed, and some of the ways we talked about to catch fish in a wide range of conditions in less than 24 hours.
Giant bass. To hold him way out here. Yeah, they're still as big as him. Not a lot I can do. to make him bigger than what he is.
Hobie's Mirage Drive kayaks set the standard for fun on the water. Whether your passion is fishing, sailing, or recreational adventure, Hobie's got a kayak for you. Hobie's Mirage Drive mimics nature's proven designs for efficient and powerful propulsion and enhances your kayaking experience. Mirage Power, Mirage Performance, Mirage Drive. Hobie, enjoy the ride.
Many said that we were just obsessed when we started, that there had to be an easier way to smoke food. As time passed, the Bradley family created a lineup of Bradley electric smokers that has made it easier for the novice or even expert chef to get perfect results every time they use it. Grab yourself a Bradley smoker and take your cooking to an all-new level.
From the makers of Bubba Blade comes the Bubba Blade Fishing Pliers. No matter where you're headed to fish, this tool will become an integral part of your tackle box for many years to come. They feature our patented no-slip grip handles, just like our Bubba Blade knives, ensuring that this tool will stay firmly anchored in your hand. In addition to the handles, these pliers feature a super tough cobalt cutter and convenient split shot and leader sleeve crimping cutouts. The ultimate in control, strength, and durability. Bubba Blade.